Hello, I'm Adrian, and I'm going to show you top 5 latest web development tools. And I'm going to discuss it, but first off in our list, we have shadcn UI. So it is a component library, and take note that this is not a dependency that we install in our React.js projects. But this is something that is similar to copy and pasting components from the internet and then putting it in our existing code base. But we're not just going to literally copy and paste it, we're going to use commands to add it in our code base. So let me show you how. So build your component library, beautifully designed components that you can copy and paste into your apps, accessible, customizable, and open source. The good thing about it is we can use TailwindCSS to manipulate the components of shadcn. So if we go here in our components, we have a list of components here like alert, alert dialog, aspect ratio, command, context menu, date picker, drawer, which is a new component added by shadcn, a pagination, and then a carousel. So it is a component using Embla. So these are components made by other developers. For example, Sonar. So Sonar component is made by other developer by Emil Kowalski. So this is a very good component, very smooth and very fast. So it is optimized. So it is much better than the typical toast that we have. So now let's try to see where it is best used at. So this is best used in industry, of course, because Tailwind CSS in combination with shadcn is widely used in um, development in the industry because we don't have to anymore create any CSS files, but our styling is now inside our files or direct files of our JSX files and TSX files. And basically, we're just putting it inline. And we have these built-in classes that we can use. Let's say, for example, flex. In the typical CSS, we're going to use display flex, something like that for adding flex. So we're going to add this property. But in Tailwind CSS, we're just going to use flex. Literally, that's it. So now, how to install it? We're going to install it using together with NextJS. We already have here a setup. So create next app to the latest, and then we're going to name our project my app in a TypeScript, with Tailwind and with slin for code formatting. So we're going to copy that and go to VS Code. So we're just going to open our terminal. I'm going to use my profile for main dev so that we can use the default terminal that I typically use, which is the fish right there. So let's try to zoom in. So I'm going to desktop directory. So I have a ZJumper installed, so you can try to install that too. And then I'm going to copy and paste this command that I copied from the shadcn installation guide. So I'm going to name it CSE2 deck project and then enter it. So it will create a Next.js application for us. So yes, I'm going to, no, I think I don't need that src. I'm going to use app router, just use the default settings. So while we are still installing and downloading some dependencies, I'm going to talk about its good things. So good thing about shadcn is it can be combined well with Tailwind CSS. And not only that, we can combine it well with NextUI React UI library. So it's really a personal choice that you can use. Sometimes it's much better to use one library component to make it consistent. But sometimes there are special cases. And as you can see, shadcn is really doing its thing in updating its components. So for example, this resizable Sonar pagination and drawer, it is recently released by shadcn. So, bad things about it is very minimal. So, if you're going to look at our installation, we do have a lot already, like Astro, Laravel, typical CRA, Gatsby, Remix, Next.js, and Vite. But we don't have shadcn for AngularJS, Svelte.js, Vue.js because they have different syntax. So, shadcn is really Next.js oriented, React.js oriented, and that's something that we should take up. take note of. So yeah, now once our installation is done, we have here a folder called se2let project. So we're going to go inside that directory, and then let me just switch to main dev, and then let's open again our terminal. Let's go to desktop, open that folder that we created, this one, and then code to open it inside VS Code. And then now we have this project. And then another thing that we should paste here in our terminal is the initialization of shadcn. So this is very important step. Don't forget about this. So hit enter. Okay, I have to delete this first, notification. So we can just use, yes, TypeScript default. I'm going to use zinc. Then my global CSS is located inside my app. So hit yes. I'm going to not use CSS variables, leave it blank. And then I'm going to change this into tailwind config.ts. Then hit enter, and then hit enter, enter. So it's going to add a components folder, but as you can see, we don't have any files inside our components folder. Why? Because we have to now add these components in our code base. So we're going to copy this. Let's say, for example, we're going to add our button component. We're going to paste it here. And now components folder will be populated. And button TSX is now here. So that's basically it. We are installing it, or basically automating the copy and pasting of these components inside our components UI folder. Now let's try to run NextJS project. Let's see what we have in our dev environment. So localhost 3000 is our dev environment. So make sure there's no running app, and make sure the port is right. Now we have this because inside our page.tsx file, we have this boilerplate. So if we remove that, all these elements will be removed. And then if we add hello world, we have hello world. Now how to import the button? Super simple. Import button from components UI button. That's it. Make sure that it is at components UI button. Now if we try to put button here and then click me, it will show us a component from shadcn library. Super simple, very intuitive, and we can use TailwindCSS to manipulate its styling. Let's say, for example, BG Gray 400, we see it reflecting already here. Very fast and very cool because it is smooth and have consistent component library. Nice. So good thing about it is that we can manipulate this button, add more variants to it, because there's another attribute called variant, and we can use outline, and then it's going to be changed to outline variant. So cool. Another thing is we can add icons. So let's say, for example, I want a link icon here, and then I'm going to add a class name. Actually, this is from Lucid React. We're going to have width of 4, height of 4, and a margin right of 2. So nice. This is really cool, but I want to make this into a link. Nice. So there's a lot of variants that we can do, like ghost, like this, and you can play around with it. So that's basically shadcn in a nutshell. Another tools in our list is NextJS. Now, since we already have NextJS here in our VS Code, I'm going to discuss how it works, especially its file routing and its React server components, etc. So let's talk about its file routing. Let's go to NextJS documentation. And then let's go here in docs, and we have two types of router, but we are currently using app router. So Abelarde is much better. In my case, I do understand it much more easily and have better file routing and file conventions. Now, let's talk about file routing. Let's say, for example, we have this page, right? So that's basically what we see here in our root file, root path. So this path. But if we're going to add another folder called, let's say, for example, blog, and then let's add a file called page.tsx, and then let's try to create a function component. It's our default function, and then we're going to name it blog, and then we're going to return blog, for in this case, for example. Now, if we're going to go inside blog, we're going to see this blog text. So let's try h1. So let's try to add a class name to it, and then make it a little bit bigger. So text xl. So we see that this block text is now in text XL. So here is the equivalent text XL in CSS. So super simple. That's how file routing works. But what if we access a random route? So admin is not existent, so it doesn't exist. So that's why it's 404. This page cannot be found. But how do we add that? Basically, we're just going to add another folder, name it admin, and then add another file named page.tsx. Here, it's our default function, then admin, return um, admin here. Okay, super fast, super simple, super straightforward. Now we have an admin route. So here's our admin route. That's basically how it works. Now we can also do dynamic routing, but um, that's something that we can discuss in another video. But here we're just going to focus on the basic stuff. Okay. Now NextJS is basically React.js. It is a framework. NextJS is a framework for React.js, and actually React.js is not a framework. It is a library. And now let's try to explore different file conventions. Now, as you may know, as you can see earlier, that when we try random paths, we see this 404, this page cannot be found. How do we change that? So let's say, for example, we want to change that um, this page could not be found. We want to change its styling and redirect users to other pages. So basically, we have here file conventions. And this error.js is something that we're going to use to display something different here in our 404 page. Okay? Or actually, this is not found. It's not found, my bad. It's not found.js. So we're going to copy that and put it inside our app folder. Name it not found. Let's say just tsx. We can also use tsx in this case, and then copy this. Hello. Just to identify that it really is changed. So let's wait. Nice. So as you can see here, it is changed. If we type any random routes, this one is shown. Okay. And then another thing is we can use import link from next link to redirect users to different paths. Like let's say for example, this home, this slash, this route path is the route to go to home. Okay. So slash, let's say for example, dashboard is going to display us not found hello. Okay. Now that's file conventions in a nutshell. We can display different file conventions like loading and yeah. So how about adding navbar and footer? So there's a good, very best practice in Uploader that we can use because they have a file convention named layout.js. So we're going to use that, and but first I'm going to show you how the typical workflow before when adding navbar and footer. So let's go here inside our page.tsx. We're going to add a simple navbar. I don't So I'm going to create a simple navbar. So for example, this navbar. Then I'm going to close it. And then we're going to see here simple navbar. My site. Okay. Actually, we can use the asset from inside our public. We can use personal.svg. Nice. Or we can use next. Nice. So let's try to remove this right side because we already have a logo. And then nice, okay. This seems fine to me. Now, when we go to slash and then blog, we can't see our navbar and it's gone. Yes, you can try to copy and paste it and put it to blogs like this, but there's actually a better way to do it. I'm going to show you how. So inside our layout, we're going to fill it in, copy and paste this, root layout, paste. Oh, actually we already have it already. Okay, so we're just going to put it here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off and paste it right here in our layout, and then import the button from components UI button, and then add the image API from NextJS. Nice. Okay, so if you try to go back in our blog, we already have this navbar. So if we try to go back into our home, we have both. Why? Because, let me troubleshoot. Because, let's try to refresh this. Okay, actually there is. Okay, it now works. So let's go back to blog, let's go back to admin, and let's go back to 404 page, and we still have this navbar. Nice. That's how layout works, and that's how file convention works. There's a lot of functionality that we can explore, advanced stuff, and yeah. So another thing with Next.js is that we can use server components. We can use API, and we can use route handlers. Let me show you defining routes like this, as I've discussed earlier on. And then we have the linking and navigating using link, and then dynamic routes. Now let me show you how dynamic route works. So we're just going to do it really fast. Let's say, for example, inside our blogs, we're going to create another folder named blog ID, and then so blog ID is going to be a variable. We're going to store there. So store some values inside our blog ID. Then add a new file page.tsx. Let's try to export default function, and then blog single blog. Then return here the name of our blog ID. So here's our blog ID, but we still need to get that value here in our parameter. So it says here that we should use this. So I'm going to use that, and then get the params blog ID. Oh, I think we need to change this into blog ID. There we go. So now if we go here in our blog slash blog, we can now see our blog ID here. So let's say, for example, our blog is about Next.js, top 5, and and that's something that will be filled in automatically with percent. So because this is a stub. Okay, nice. So this is very useful when it comes to querying in our database. So this is widely used in production ready website. So what else we can discuss? So another thing is we can create actually an API inside Next.js itself. So how do we do that? We can create another folder called API and then name it route.ts. Basically, that's it. Very simple. We now just going to create route handlers. So let's go here in our route handlers. Um, we can now export async function and then get. Wait, let me show you a simple hello world that we can use. Okay, I will show you a simple hello world. Now I'm going to return. Um, wait, this is wrong. We're going to get the rest, and then next response, then rec, and then next request. So we're going to return the next response of .json message hello world. Now, how do we invoke this? we go back here in our page app, and then let's try it. Let's say, for example, we want to fetch data. And take note, this is not client side. We're already inside server. So that's already by default made by NextJS. So let's try to make this async. So going to make this async. Oh, wait, there we go. Now we're going to const const response. Oh wait, fetch. What's our path? We're going to fetch it by localhost. So we're going to grab this localhost, and if we go to our API, we have here hello world. So that's what we're going to get. Also, we can add another folder here and put it inside so that when we try this, because it is already inside the hello path. So I think the video clip got cut off for displaying the hello world in a different route, a folder called hello. Now, let's try to test it. So we have an API folder, hello folder, and route.ts inside hello folder. Now, we're trying to fetch this API route with get method. So when we try to put it in our URL link, it will say message hello world. And we're grabbing it and putting it inside the response variable, and then using .json to parse it into a JSON objects, and then put it inside the data variable. Now, we're going to use the data variable for console logging. That's why we have this console log in our server. And then we use data.message because we have data message with a value of hello world. That's why we now have hello world here. We are displaying hello world, value of hello world that came from our server. That's basically how it works for Next.js route handlers. So now let's talk about Tailwind CSS. So Tailwind CSS is a way for us to avoid CSS files and put our stylings in line. So as you can see here, we have flex, mean age screen, flex call, item center, justify between, and a padding of 24. So if we try to hover it, we'll see what is the CSS equivalent of this class in Tailwind CSS. So basically, we're putting class name, and then the styling itself. So let's go back here and then let's search for TailwindCSS docs, documentation, and there's a lot of classes that we can use. Let's say, for example, Flex. We can use Flex1, Flex Auto, Flex Initial, and this is the equivalent CSS property. And for padding, we can see here the class and the equivalent property here when using CSS. So that's basically how it works for Tailwind CSS. So what is Tailwind CSS? Rapidly build modern websites. So basically utility for CSS framework pack with with classes like Flex, PT4, Text Center, and Rotate90 that can be composed to build any design directly in your markup. So it is compatible with Next.js, compatible with React.js, compatible with traditional HTML, and compatible with a lot of frameworks. So if we're going to look at their documentations, we have different applications like we can use for CDN. We can use it as CDN like this. So this is a basic.html file, and then we have here a script so that we can define our themes for inside our Tailwind configuration. So let's try it in action. So actually, if you're going to look at this, this is very lengthy for styling, especially when you're putting it in line. So that's another disadvantage for Tailwind CSS because it can get sometimes a little bit messy or lengthy because of a lot of classes. But for me, it's not really a big problem. It's really intuitive for me to just easily put it inside our class name. So as you can see here, we only have the global.css file, and there's less CSS files that we use. So advantage is more than the disadvantage. So okay, so let's try to fix this using Tailwind CSS. Let's add a padding on this navbar. We go back to our layout. So we go here in our navbar, And then let's try to add a padding here. In order for us to add a padding, we use P, or we can use PX for adding padding only in line, left and right. But for y-axis, we add padding for top and bottom. Okay, but in my case, I will add both all sides. So we're going to use P and then dash 10. So it is equivalent to 2.5 rem 40px. So when we try to save this, in the flowsheet, we can see that our navbar have its own padding. So that's how TailwindCSS works. So let's try to add a background color of, say, 200. So let's add just 100. Nice. Maybe we can lower its opacity more, something like that. And then I guess we lower the padding for top and bottom. We just put 4 here. Nice. That's really cool. And then we can also change the image size for our logo. Let's try something like 60. 60. Nice. So let's try to add a hero section. So that's going to be inside here in our page.tsx, the root file. So instead of adding this clicking, we're going to add a hero section. So if I remove those stylings, as you can see, it started here because there's no any more styling here in our main. So I'm going to start it like this, and let's work from here. So now we have a simple hero section. Very simple, right? Now you can explore this Tailwind CSS. What I suggest is don't watch any more YouTube tutorials for Tailwind CSS. You can easily go back here in Tailwind CSS documentation and explore some of its classes. And there's a lot of classes that you can use, like animations. And for example, this one. Let's try to spin this. You can also do that. So you can spin it, and then you can try to add a simple pose. See? And then there's a lot of animation that you can use. Animate in. Let's try animate ping. And then animate bounce. So now it bounces. It bounces. So yeah, that's it for Tailwind CSS. This is widely used in industry, freelancing, and I highly suggest to use Tailwind CSS because um, it doesn't only handle those classes like flex, rounded, or elements for manipulating elements, but you can also add responsiveness to your website using only Tailwind CSS. So like this. So yeah, let's move on forward into our next list. So next in our list is also created by Vercel Labs. Also, shadcn is a contributor on this project, which is called vo.dev. vo.dev is inspired by versioning. VO1, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. So actually, this is going to be my first time using it and applying it into Next.js. So we're going to explore it. So let's say, for example, you want to create a landing page for my design portfolio. You can also do that using vo.dev, using AI here, and then you're basically going to add a prompt. You can add any images, any UI that you want to copy, and then vo.dev will give you a UI shadcn component, customized shadcn component that you can use and import, install in your project. So basically, we're not installing dependencies. We're just copy and pasting code here. So really cool. We're just using shadcn with together with TailwindCSS. So now, vo.dev, let's try it. We have 1090 credits left. Actually, I already prompted many different components. Like let's say, for example, a student information form like this. And then now let's try a landing page for my website design portfolio. Make it it UI friendly. Use UI shadcn components. My name is Adrian Angelo Abelarde. Fourth year computer science student. Full stack developer, web developer, NextJS 2014, LocatorJS, JS. Now let's try that and let's see the results. So now what it's doing is it is generating a landing page for my website design portfolio, as you can see here. So very simple portfolio, but the good thing about it is using a shadcn components. Nice, this is cool. So we can I can copy and paste this, specializing in. Nice. Let's try to zoom out so that we can see it properly. Okay, I think I'm good with this, so I'm going to copy this code, or I can copy this and put it in my terminal. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how it works. So let's add another terminal and then paste it here. Yes. So this using button, components UI button, and then card title, card header, card content, card components UI card. So let's name this component as portfolio and then done. Now I think it is added here in our components folder. Yes, it is added. Now let me try to put it inside. Yeah, maybe there. So let's try to add another page for our portfolio. So new folder, portfolio, and then inside our portfolio, let's add a page.tsx, and then let's add that component. So I'm going to import the portfolio, and then export default function portfolio page. Now let's try if this component works. So let's add portfolio. Nice. So it works. Let's see if it is responsive. Currently, it is not responsive. That's something that we can work on. I like this one. So very cool. Good work by shadcn vo.dev. And yeah. Also, these cards are already responsive. So that's already a good thing. It follows a consistent margins and paddings. So yeah, very cool vo.dev implementation. You can view different pages. Now you can also customize it. So that's a good um, feature. of vo.dev. So for example, we can't use this, so we can just use a pause to remove the error, and then also we can add layout, separate layout the TSX here. Folio layout. And I'm just going to copy and paste this, all this, and put it here. But I'm going to remove the navbar and then use portfolio layout. Nice. So it doesn't detect the .global CSS file. I'm going to locate that first. Um, that's CSS. Oh, I think we have to add a route group, grouped route. So we should add something like this. So also have to consider that to make it work. Let's try again view.dev because it seems interesting. Now let's try to create a blog page because um, we have here a blog page here in our NextJS project. But this time, we're going to use some images in the internet that we can upload here and then make view.dev follow that. So let's go here, dribble.com, and let's find some inspirations. So blog, and then try blog website. So maybe let's try this, or let's find one. I think this one. So this is another website for getting design inspiration. So let's try to search for blogs. Actually, they don't have one. But anyways, I think let's just use the website I built before for blogs, and then let shadcn copy this. So I'm gonna screenshot it, then paste it right here, and then blogs page. Simple as that. Now let's see if it really follows the same layout as the one I screenshotted. So let's wait for it to generate. Now as you can see here, somehow it is similar, but I can't fully view it. So let's wait for it to load. So yes, our credits is being deducted as this generation goes on. but that's okay. I'm going to refresh it. Now we have this component, very similar, which is very cool. And all the contents is transferred into this page. Very cool, very easy to use. And then I think I like this one. Yeah, I like this one more, but I like how this one is have its own font weight. But anyways, let's get one and then copy this and then put it in our VS Code. So as you can see here, we're just adding it the same as shadcn component, and then we're going to name it. Let's name it blog. Now let's go back here in our blog page, and then we're going to import our blog component. So I'm going to change this to blogs page, and then put the blog component here. So when we try to access our blog route, we now have the same layout. Very cool. So that's about it for vo.dev. It gives us template. You can also go back here and then make another generation and go for v1, v2, v3, v4. Make you can make cards hoverable, and then it will proceed into v1. So that's how vo.dev works. Now let's proceed to the next tool, which is LocatorJS. Now let's talk about LocatorJS. What is LocatorJS? I'm going to show you what it is, and it is used. I actually use this for React.js projects. For example, Vite, but you can also use it for Next.js. So in order for us to use it, we have to install it in our browser. So it is a browser extension. So if you're going to look at this demo, um, the, it, yeah, basically you're clicking specific elements in the client in the browser, but what it does is it will redirect you to a specific code base so that you don't have to manually navigate into many different folders, many different files in your VS Code. But yeah, click on a component to go to its code. So that's one way to explain it much more shorter. So okay, now let's try to install it. So I'm going to install it using Chrome browser. Now it is installed, and then locator could not run on this page, could not connect. So basically this doesn't still work with Next.js, but sometimes it does work. There we go. Okay, the reason why is we this syntax IO is not a dev environment, so we have to go inside our dev environment. Okay, so when we click for Mac option, but for Windows out, it will show us this box and show the preview. So this is very useful, very handy for development. So when we click this, no source info found for this element. Okay. The reason behind that is because we're using React.js, Next.js. So we have to create a project that isn't Next.js. So we're going to create another project called Vite.js. So let's try that. Um, let's go create another workspace and then open another terminal. And we're going to set up Vite, get started. And then basically this is just a version, it's like another version of React. Our framework for React compiler. So it makes React much faster. So let's get started. In order for us to install it, we have to specify. So let's try React JavaScript. let's try to copy this command first, and then let's go to desktop. But I'm going to change this into React, and then with React app. So let's try that. Let's see if it will work. So yeah, it worked. Now we have to cd invite React app npm install, and then we have to wait for it to install. Oh, basically Vite is a bundler. So it makes the building much more faster because the typical CRA is slow. So React.js itself recommends us to use any frameworks, libraries to build on top of React.js or typical CRA. So now we can now go inside this project and then start from here. Okay. Now we can do something like npm run dev again to run this project, and let's see in browser. So we have a different local host. So yeah, this is Vite plus React, very fast. Now, if we're going to view our app.jsx, this is basically what we see in our browser. So we have to remove this boilerplate. Now, when we try to add an h1, hello world, then let's say for example, yeah, it reflected here. And then let's say for example you want to add a button, increment, and then we want to increase our counter. Set it down to 1. We can add another h1 here to display our count. So yeah, now this is where we're going to use our LocatorJS. When we click this, it will redirect us into our VS Code, and then it will show us what line and what HTML tag it came from. Okay, so that's basically how LocatorJS works. This is very useful for navigating and locating your elements when there's a lot of files and folders in your project code base. So yeah, LocatorJS, that's LocatorJS in a nutshell.